Oh my...
Oh my god, what we like? You can't take us anywhere.
I can't do this. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm so stop it. Welcome to the second episode of Queer Chat. So so craziness aside, my friend here, Ellen, we have recently became friends, like about 6 months ago, I would say. I thought it would be really interesting to talk about your journey on YouTube and your life as a trans woman.
I'm not out as a trans woman, you've just outed me right now. Jesus Christ, Roly.
You are trans.
Yeah.
Yes, and so what was your, start from the very beginning, like when did you first like understand what it was and your feelings, but like just start from the beginning.
The beginning of my story is actually very similar to a lot of gay men that I've met, of like feeling like you're just little gay kid who doesn't really understand life, and like as soon as you can interact with other children, you like notice you're extremely fucking different from them.
Yeah.
And they're gonna make that very clear to you that you're different from them. And
triggered, yeah. Triggered but true.
Yeah, so I was a little sissy boy kind of walking around in a dress, and my parents didn't really think much of it because I grew up in Brighton. It's a very liberal place.
So did you wear dresses before? Literally
from the age of like 2. But no, as I started to grow up, it became really clear that it wasn't like a performative thing. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to put on a dress and sing and dance. It was just very much this is my get up all the time. And I'm going to have panic attacks.
To you,
yeah, like I would have panic attacks and anxiety attacks if like I had to conform to male binary stuff. So when I had to go to school in a male uniform, that became a huge issue for me.
Yeah.
And then eventually like my mental health kind of took a massive toll. Like I've always been someone that's used like humor as a defense mechanism, and I was very much like that as a child.
Yeah.
So any time that I couldn't do that, like going to school and having to like be like a child, like growing up and following rules, I didn't cope with that very well. I didn't really know how to deal with that. And yeah, unfortunately it didn't really get a lot better from there. I was constantly like, you know, the butt of the joke constantly throughout my childhood. Being called faggot and puff, and I'm sure you know all about that.
Yeah, I do. We had a nice conversation before, didn't we? Yes.
Basically, kept on declining with my own mental health, and unfortunately, when I was 7, I tried to take my own life.
Gosh, okay.
Because I couldn't articulate what was happening inside of me. I knew that I wasn't attracted to anyone at that stage. It wasn't a gay thing. It wasn't, you know, a lifestyle thing. And at this time, we didn't know anything, or like me and my family didn't know anything about trans.
I was going to ask, what did your family say at this point? Like,
well, they were just as confused as I was.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a thing. Like you couldn't look back at it and be like, maybe it's that. Like nowadays you have trans people like on the internet and in the media, whether or not they be good or bad, people know.
Wow, yeah.
This was 15 years ago. Until eventually my parents like kept on researching, because my mental health kept on declining, and I really wasn't a child. Like I missed out on a lot of childhood things because I was so depressed, and I was, you know, self-harming from a very, very, very young age. They kept on looking at around, and they figured out that, you know, trans is actually a thing that was happening over in America, where like, young children were being medicated. It wasn't legal to do that here at the time, so we had to go over to America.
Oh wow, okay, I didn't know that, okay.
Technically I was the first, I was the youngest British child to like go through like
Were you?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
And that,
was that like news articles and stuff?
Here's the
oh
my god, I'm gonna sound like such a basic white girl, but here's the tea. Sipping. It caused a lot of real negative media backlash when I was young. So when I was like 10, news kind of broke out around like my village that I was like socially transitioning. I went to school as one day as a boy and next as a girl, and I was starting to have consultations about treatments over in America. One day we got a knock at the door, and it was the Daily Mail. So they ended up breaking into our house and like harassing us. And we had to move away for a bit because there was a lot of like negative attention, because literally every day it would be, you know, youngest tranny in all of the land, you know, like brainwashed children. Like
I think it's crazy actually, with the word tranny, that actually back in like the mid-noughties, it was actually a normal thing that people would say.
Oh yeah.
Like, and I know people use it now obviously as an insult and stuff, but like back then it was like a word that people would say as if it was just like me saying hello to someone, something like.
Yeah. So that was used a lot, and so the media was fucking rough for a bit. What the fuck happened there?
I was just making sure, because
we were like levitating. I was just like, Hail Satan! Yes, Lucifer! Yes!
Oh my god! I was just seeing if the microphone was still plugged in. Turned on. Plugged in? Oh, I've gone insane.
Oh my god.
This is what she's done to me. What we like take us anywhere.
Jesus Christ.
Did you understand what was going on completely with the media? You didn't get it? Oh, okay.
No, I was too young. I knew my parents liked to shut me out from a lot of it.
Yeah.
They had to go to court. They had to do a whole bunch of stuff. And then so I started getting treatment over in America, and I joined high school, and I literally joined as a girl. No one knew. And I decided if I'm starting female puberty and I'm never going through male puberty, then I'm gonna like go hard with this and never ever say that I'm trans.
Yeah. Because you're actually the first person that I've known who have done it before puberty. Because everyone else I've known who's done it afterwards, and obviously the transitions.
They don't get the privilege of being able to
like it's very
live
different
in stealth. Yeah, I became extremely like anxious as a teenager because whenever anything trans related would come up, the stories about me from years ago would then resurface, and it kept on happening. Yeah. And when I started making YouTube videos, I was like, someone's from my school's gonna out me. Like,
and so when did you start doing YouTube? When was that?
I started doing YouTube in 2014, and I only came out as like a trans person on YouTube like 6 months ago. Yeah, because
so that's how I found you. I found the video of you coming out as trans. I was confused at first because I saw the video and thought you were transitioning to be a boy to start with, and then when I obviously carried on watching the video and I realised, I was like, oh wow, like it was because again you're the first person that I've known who's done that through that way.
It doesn't tend to happen. It doesn't tend to happen and be like, hi, this is my second coming out in a sense. It felt weird coming out again.
Yeah. I always know that there's a lot of, well, you knew about the scandal that you had when all the paper stuff.
The scandal.
The scandal. Like,
must alert the press.
But like, because I know that there's a lot of negative attention when it comes to doing it as so young before puberty, because people are like, well, I'm to change their mind, or what like the way that everything happened. Are you completely happy with the way that it all went? And like now in your life, would you say that you're happy with everything? And yeah. This
question gets asked to me a lot about, well, you know, you're a special example because you obviously are very happy now. You're technically trans. And a lot of people will be like, well, how do kids know? Like, they think it's a fashion trend, blah, blah, blah. The thing is, kids will know, and you can't keep up an act for that fucking long. Yeah. Imagine if I was like, surprise bitch, like this was all just a fucking phase for this long. I've lived longer in my life as a female than I have as a male. Mm-hmm. When have you ever like gone up to a straight person and be like, so when did you know you were straight?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you've always fucking known that you were queer. You always knew that you were different from people.
Yeah.
And when my life was at risk, my parents did the right thing and they fucking looked after me like any parent should.
Because there is that stigma to a lot of people saying you're so young to know. Mm-hmm. You're on the other side and you're like, well, actually, no. Like, you knew and you're happy. And I don't understand why adults don't seem to think that kids know who they are.
Yeah. I don't mean to say this in like a braggy kind of way or a insensitive kind of way. Mm-hmm. I know I passed very well.
Yeah.
There would be absolutely no reason for me not to because I never went through male puberty. And with that, I find that there's a lot of bitterness in the trans community where people assume that everything must have been handed to me.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to struggle and live as a guy for many, many years. And the thing is with this is that it's every single trans person's story is subjective.
Yeah.
I may have been able to transition young and I'm incredibly grateful for my parents and for the opportunity that I had to do that. But I missed out on a childhood.
Yeah.
I can never have children. I had to deal with negative media attention because I was so young. Like, it was not easy fucking at all. So I think comparing your story to other trans people is a really weird and not very progressive way of going along with the community, and that's something that I find a lot of.
I think people just like to think that they're the most important story or they're the most important side of one thing.
Much like you.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I am the spokesperson.
Alexa, do you know I am?
I am the spokesperson for every non-binary person in the world. But that's the kind of thing a lot of people. So if your identity or your thing doesn't match up completely perfect to what they think. Certain things should be, they go on the attack. And it's sad that inside our community that happens. You're being no different than what straight people and cis people are saying to you. So what are some things that you find now that you just dislike that people ask you? What are some things that you hate people asking you?
Well, I think it's never acceptable to go up to a stranger and ask them about their genitals, just straight off the bat. Sexual harassment and verbal sexual harassment is never okay in any sense.
Exactly.
Regardless of being trans or not. Backhanded compliments is like a real thing in the fucking trans community of like, oh, you're really pretty for a trans person. Like,
yes,
it happens all the fucking time. When people, I would never be able to guess Like, guess what? I'm not a fucking guessing game. I'm not Clue, am I?
With passing, I feel there's so much emphasis on it, and I almost feel like the society kind of says you're not like a successful trans person unless you pass all the time, which is completely unrealistic just to a lot of people. You know, you can't help your face, you can't help the way you look, and surgery can only do so much. And I think it's so unfair to a lot of trans people who you don't pass as easily, and they're almost seen as like like worthy of it.
Not only is that transphobic, but I think it's actually also sexist as well, because it's saying what a man and a woman should confine to and what you should aspire to. So that kind of delves into a massive issue in itself. There's this weird notion that if you don't get like X, Y, Z kind of surgeries, then that doesn't make you a real trans person. And having surgery doesn't define your story, it doesn't define you being transgender, it doesn't define anything about you. It's your own personal choice. I know so many fucking trans people that don't want to have surgeries.
Well, and also like going under the knife and going to surgery, all that stuff. That's carry risks in its own. People die from like just going under surgery, like local anaesthetic. Like it's scary. That's not a thing. People just go, well, you have to do that in order to blah. Like
I was originally booked to have surgery, like the main event that people would presume surgery is, when I was 16, and again it wasn't legal here in the UK because you had to be on the treatment here for like a certain amount of years, and because don't
they say like for you to have surgery you'd have to live as a girl for 2 years before they'd even consider you as like
before you're even on the waiting list. It's very, very backwards. It's not as progressive as people think in the UK. What happens is a lot of trans people, they will get a consultation and they will go on blockers, which will stop any hormones, but then they have to wait 2 years to get any hormone replacements. That's fucking dangerous. To live as a teenager without any hormones whatsoever, that you get depressed, you get malnourished, you have a lot of health risk, but for some reason that's still legal in the UK. And then again, once you could do all of that and then you still have to wait a certain amount of years to then have even a consultation or a chat with someone about surgery. So I went over to Thailand, and originally I was going to have it when I was 16, on my 16th birthday, and then they changed the law literally about a month before.
Oh gosh, okay.
To 18. And although I was devastated, I'm so happy that I did wait until I was 18, because it is a fucking psychological journey. Like, it is rough.
So when you first started taking hormones, what were because you were younger, what was the effects on your body straight away? People
start puberty at loads of different ages, and they actually do something called Tanner stages. And so when I was 11, which is when I started hormones, the doctors noticed that I was on Tanner stage 3. So that was actually quite high, and that if I hadn't intervened literally in a matter of months, then I would have already started. And that's how I think we should do it in the UK. I think we should do it by Tanner stages, not by ages. Because for ages it was, you couldn't take hormone blockers until you were 16. Have you ever met a 16-year-old that hasn't been through puberty? I started to go through puberty literally the same time that I was meant to. Do you get what I mean? And it started off with a very small dose and it kept on getting higher. So I obviously took estrogen pills. But because of that and where I was in America, Boston, which is where I was getting the treatment, is actually like really medically like ahead of the game. I was lucky enough to actually be able to choose what kind of height that I wanted to go to. Fucking breast size, which I instantly regret now, because as like a little like gay boy, I was like, I want to have the biggest boobs ever, and then now I'm like, oh Jesus Christ. God,
so the level of estrogen you would take would determine how big they would grow? Well,
they would do that with other hormones as well, and like interject them for like a certain amount of time until you were literally happy with the results. But yeah, I got to kind of design, but like grand design.
10 years younger.
So I found that I was going through puberty at the same time as like all the girls at school. So that was kind of a weird thing for them, because they had heard rumours, but then they had seen that I had bigger boobs than them. So it was like, well, it's a bit confusing.
With school and things, did you ever get any pushback at all from teachers at all? So what was that like? What was the...
I used to get bullied by teachers. Back then, training for LGBT in schools wasn't a thing. Whereas now it's kind of mandatory, and there's a certain level of like training that people have to go through. You'd have some teachers that would sympathize, but you would have a lot of teachers that would see stuff going on, get scared, they don't really know too much about it, and let it happen. I vividly remember getting beat up in the schoolyard after school, and seeing a teacher make eye contact with me and walking off, not doing anything about it. which is
wow.
fucked up when you say it out loud now.
Wow, yes.
But at the time, I was like, you know, they don't get it. The teachers don't get it, and the children don't get it. And I think part of the reason why I got it so bad in school with the kids is because the teachers weren't intervening and they weren't being set as like a role model for these kids. When I got to high school, I was treated like I was disabled by teachers. I was never allowed to go in the girls' toilet, even though I did. I had to always use the disabled, which drew so much more fucking attention to me.
Yeah, exactly.
I had, like, rumors about me, like, you know, she's the tranny, and then I go into the disabled toilet. It's like,
What I don't understand is, what would you be going into the girls' toilets? Are you not
to,
are you
to
going
spread
to go,
my
like,
disease?
Are you going in there to film them? Like, are you going in there to like I don't understand.
Well, the thing is, this is really like psychologically damaging. Is that I trained myself never to actually go to the toilet. So I can like hold my fucking wee in for a really long time now, which is like, I put it on my CV. I never did PE in school, ever. Because they were like, oh, you don't have to do it. Like, we're scared. We don't know what to do. We don't know what changing room we want to go in. You just don't have to do it. I got dead named by teachers.
What's dead named? What's that?
So even though I'd legally changed my name, they would call me by my boy name.
Oh.
And claim it was a mistake, but they never knew me, as this was in high school and I came out in primary school. So I don't even know how they would know what my previous name was.
Daily Mail.
Daily fucking Mail. I felt like half the issue actually came from the teachers as well as the kids. And things have changed now. Like, I work with a charity called Mermaids, and we do a lot of training around schools.
Oh, okay.
Which is now becoming more and more like mandatory within schools, and if you don't get that training, then you're kind of looked down upon. So it's really cool that we can kind of do that, and teachers can understand even about like pronouns and stuff like that. Like, that was just not even a thing back then.
Because obviously I'm a little bit older than you, and when I was in school, there was no education when it comes to LGBT stuff. So I thought by the time you were in school, who was at my age, where like in like the early teens, that there would at least been something. With dating, I've never asked you this before, so what's your identity when it comes to sexuality?
Well, I class myself as a straight woman.
Okay.
So I like guys. But I'm not like hugely into dating. Like, it's not like a massive priority for me.
Okay.
Whenever I go out, it's always in an extremely queer place.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't really put myself out there. It's not impossible to date as a trans person. I know so many trans people that are in like happy, successful relationships. It definitely is a bigger issue though. Now it's kind of just a thing where like, I tell people straight away, and it's just like, oh, I'm trans by the way, like, okay, you don't want to get a beer with me, fine, whatever. Like, probably don't want to be with you anyway. Because a quick Google search, you're gonna find out anyway. Yeah,
I was gonna say, like, I didn't know how, like, I wondered how would you just tell someone outright, or would you wait a while?
I would wait till like a good moment, but I wouldn't leave it days and days in. You know, I would just kind of be like, oh, hey, by the way, like, this is the situation. The only thing is that when you're out so publicly, you get a lot of fucking tranny traces.
Well, yeah, fetishization. You've got a book.
Oh my goodness. Fucking grotesque.
Oh my god.
Grotesque. I'm Australian again, I don't know why.
So, oh my gosh, thank you so much, Ellen, for being on my channel. I adore you, and give me a nice hug.
Oh, give us a hug. In it camp. In it camp.
Oh god. The fag and a hag.
Yes.
So, please, everyone, make sure you go over to Ellen's channel. We're also going to be doing a video on her channel, so we're not sure what we're doing.
I have no fucking clue.
We'll chat about non-binary shit.
Yeah, so we can do that.
Yeah, okay. Anyway. So to go over to Ellen's channel, I'll put a link down there. Obviously, there'll be cards and things at the end. And make sure you come follow us on social medias. Again, links down below. I love you all, and I'll see you all very soon. And I hope you've enjoyed this second edition of Queer Chat.
Ditto.
Bye.
Bye-bye.